Welcome, enlightened viewers, to Science and Spirituality on Supreme Master Television. Today, our topic is the wisdom of Kabbalah, possibly one of the oldest schools of spiritual wisdom that has existed till this day. Kabbalah is often incorrectly associated with schools of Judaic mysticism. Kabbalah is a supernatural science. Kabbalists study the upper worlds or heaven's forces and laws that govern our physical world. By contrast, the natural sciences, such as physics or biology, study our material world in terms of how it is perceived by our five senses. The start of Kabbalah goes back around 3,800 years ago to the time of the ancient biblical figure and enlightened master, the patriarch Abraham, who was originally from the Mesopotamian region in the Middle East. Kabbalists believe he discovered the existence of godliness, a reality outside this world, and then wrote a book about it called Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Creation. This is the world's first book of Kabbalah. Kabbalists also believe that Abraham often would sit by the door of his tent and welcome travelers to come in. He would then feed them and teach them about the wisdom of Kabbalah. Then, approximately 500 years later, around 1350 BCE, Prophet Moses, also an enlightened master, wrote his book of Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible. This is also considered one of the books that are a part of the Kabbalah tradition. In the 2nd century CE, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the book of Zohar, or Brightness, with commentaries on the Torah. This book features much discussion on the nature of God and the origin and structure of the universe. This fact makes the book of Zohar a primary reference text for Kabbalists. Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, popularly known as the Ari, lived during the 16th century. He is responsible for making Kabbalah more like a science, and the nature of the Kabbalah school of today reflects his enormous contribution. Finally, in the 20th century, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlak, also known as Bal HaSalam, or owner of the ladder, wrote the book entitled Salam, or Ladder, containing his famous commentary on the book of Zohar. Since the times of Moses, Kabbalists have written their books using worldly language with references in the text to things of this world. However, the books actually do not refer to this physical world. Instead, they are descriptions of the upper world, the root of forces that create and sustain all things in our material world. The book of Zohar states that Kabbalah will be revealed in our times in order to elevate humanity to a harmonious level of coexistence. In some ways, Bal HaSalam made that prophecy a reality. He made Kabbalah more accessible to everyone, even those who do not follow Kabbalah, by use of modern language and by making its spiritual philosophy more understandable through his explanations. They also say he created a practical method of teaching Kabbalah that can be used by anyone to attain the upper world. Bal HaSalam has written, "And I have named that commentary the Salam, or ladder, to show that the purpose of it is that if you have an attic full of goods, then all you need is a ladder to reach it, and then all the bounty of the world is in your hands." The word Kabbalah originates from the Hebrew word reception, which refers to being in contact with the upper light or creator, which is pure bestowing love. But if we are equipped with just the 5 senses that only tell us about the physical world, how do we develop spiritual insight and be in touch with the Creator's force from above? Kabbalists pointed to their books as the answer. They say the authors of this text reach high level of spiritual attainment and could recognize the Creator. Once a person studies about the soul and about their 6th sense from these books, the reader will be able to draw the light of the Creator upon themselves and advance in spiritual knowledge. This is an excerpt from the Introduction to the Talmud's Eser Sefirot by Baal HaSalam that gives further explanation. There is a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Although they do not understand what they are learning, through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they are learning, they awaken upon themselves the lights that surround their souls. We'll be right back to discuss more about creation and the nature of our world from the Kabbalah perspective. You are watching Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to Science and Spirituality. Today we are discussing the wisdom and science of the ancient Kabbalah. Kabbalists believe that the entire substance of creation is born out of a desire to receive pleasure. This desire evolved in 4 phases, the last of which is called a creature, meaning an independent being. In Kabbalah, the evolution of the desire to receive controls everything that exists in particular matter, time, space, or motion in our physical world. For this reason, Kabbalah focuses on the forces of the upper world. Here is a short description of the 4 phases. Each phase of creation is not like an independent stage of development, but rather each succeeding phase is a new quality of desire that is developed on top of all previous ones. One can view the multiple phases like the transition from infancy to adulthood. We know that even a mature person not only retains memories of the past, but also behaves like a child sometimes. On occasions, he or she overacts emotionally the same as when he or she was small. So the different phases of development are not erased once passed through, rather it is the latest phase that primarily controls. The 0 or root or keter phase in creation is light or the creator. Light is love, bestowing, the gift of pleasure. But in order to bestow, light must have something to give to. Therefore, light creates a vessel, called a kli, a being which is like an imprint of the Creator, in order to fill it with pleasure. This is called phase 1 or Chokhmah. We can compare this phase to a baby in the mother's womb. The kli is unaware of desires, and depends entirely on the Creator who bestows light upon it. At some moment, through receiving of this light, the creation senses love and the giving intention of the Creator. This leads us to phase 2, or Bina, when the creation wants to be like the Creator and therefore rejects the light. But again, In order to engage in creation, one requires another being that needs to receive light, and the closest one is the Creator. However, at this stage of infancy, the creation has nothing to give to the Creator. The Creator just wants to bestow pleasure. Therefore, the creation discovers that by receiving light from the Creator, she will actually be bestowing by conferring what pleases the Creator. If one imagines the pleasure a mother derives from nurturing her baby, one will realize that the baby is actually giving pleasure to its mother simply by receiving the nurturing. Hence, in the phase 3, Zer and Pin, the creation independently chooses to receive some of the light, 10% for example, in order to please the Creator, and the rest is given back to the Creator. Kabbalah says the creation is still very much dependent upon the Creator's giving. They both share equal status of givers, although the creation does not know the thought behind creation and just copies the Creator's will to confer in order to be like Him. Nevertheless, Kabbalah says from the Creator's perspective, phase 3 could complete the process of creation, but the creation did not settle for that. At the end of phase 3, the creation feels independent pleasure from receiving light, as well as pleasure from sharing the Creator's status. This sensation constitutes phase 4, Malchut, which is very different from the first 3 phases, because the creature develops a specific kind of pleasure, one of which is a desire for sharing status with the Creator. In fact, by sharing the status of the Creator, Malchut, which is now an independent creature, is elevated to a higher spiritual state that is even above its own root. It is called Ein Sof, or no end, which is a land with no limitations on receiving pleasure. Malchut is in bliss. Kabbalists say there is a beautiful connection here. On the one hand, it seems as if the creation and the Creator are separated and pursuing different ends, because the creation receives light from the Creator, but in fact, the Creator's greatest pleasure is to see His creation enjoy and share status with Him, which is also the creation's greatest desire. Similarly, children generally want to become like their parents, and parents naturally want their child to achieve what the parents have or even more. Therefore, the created being and the Creator are actually pursuing the same goal from the beginning of creation. Kabbalah says that if we could comprehend this concept, then our lives would be very different now. However, Kabbalah says Malchut is not looking at things from the Creator's perspective. Instead, Malchut looks from his own perspective, without complete understanding of its own nature, which is a will to receive, an opposite of the Creator. Thus, to become spiritually like the Creator, the creature, or Malchut, must use its will to receive with the intention to bestow like in phase 3. By doing that, it will turn its focus from its own pleasure to bring pleasure to the Creator. But the ultimate pleasure and goal of the creature is not in sharing spiritual status, but also to resemble the Creator, which would include his mind and thought of creation. And this obviously could not be given to an underdeveloped creature, which simply responded to the light in its infancy stage. It is what the Malchut must achieve the hard way and on its own. Therefore, as Malchut indulges in receiving unlimited pleasures, at the same stage it becomes aware that the Creator is an ultimate giver. This leads to a painful sense of spiritual shame. Malchut then regards itself as a lower being, and these thoughts move Malchut away from the Creator. Malchut decides to first restrict itself from receiving light altogether to stop the pain. This act is called tzimutzum, or restriction. Malchut then acquires tools to control receiving light, which is called masach, or screen. From now on, the creature will only accept the necessary amount of light into the vessel or kli, and the rest will be reflected. Clearly, Malchut wants to correct himself by controlling its own desires in order to resemble the Creator. Needless to say, it was part of the creation plan. This is just the beginning stage of the creation process. At the end of the correction, the creature will receive all of the Creator's light and unite with Him again. This is the purpose of creation, to enjoy the bliss of it. When we reach that state, we will feel it both as individuals and as a single united society. This is because the complete kli or vessel is not made of one person's desires, but of the desires of all of humanity. Kabbalists say when we complete the last correction, we will become identical to the Creator and phase 4 will be fulfilled. Thus, creation will be completed from our perspective, just as it is completed from His. Thank you for being with us today on Science and Spirituality. Please join us next Monday for part 2 of our program on Kabbalah. Coming up next is Words of Wisdom after noteworthy news. May your life be filled with inner tranquility.